Let's be honest. If someone stays in your mind long after the conversation ends, after the phone goes silent, after the room gets quiet, that isn't weakness. That's impact, and most men never realize this until it's already too late. Because while you're wondering why she hasn't texted, why her energy shifted, why her presence feels louder in absence than it ever did in person, something deeper has already happened beneath the surface, something psychological, something irreversible. I'm going to speak to you as someone who sees both sides, not to flatter you, not to shame you, but to tell you the truth. Most men never hear from a woman who understands how attraction actually works. When a woman stays in your mind, when her voice replays in your head, when moments with her feel unfinished, it's not because she's special. It's because something inside you was activated. And here's the uncomfortable part. That same mechanism works in reverse. Women don't bond the way men do. Men attach through presence, repetition, reassurance. Women attach through emotional contrast, through moments that disturb their inner calm just enough to make them curious. When you stay in her mind, it's not because you tried harder, it's because you disrupted a pattern she didn't even know she was stuck in. Think about the men she forgets. They're polite, predictable, emotionally available on command. They explain themselves too much. They chase clarity. They seek validation. And they disappear from her memory the moment something more interesting enters her emotional field. But the man who stays, he doesn't beg for attention. He doesn't rush the bond. He doesn't collapse when uncertainty appears. He leaves space. And space is where imagination lives. Here's the truth no one tells you. A woman's mind is not captured by consistency alone. It's captured by contrast. The way you made her feel seen without being consumed. The way you didn't overreact when she pulled back. The way you didn't demand reassurance when silence appeared. That restraint creates tension. And tension creates memory. If she stays in your mind, it means you were emotionally present, but not emotionally dependent. You were grounded while still being warm. You showed intent without desperation. And that balance is rare. Rare enough that the nervous system remembers it. Rare enough that even when she's with someone else, something feels slightly off. Because her mind compares, not consciously, instinctively. Men think winning is about possession, about locking it down, about certainty. But psychologically, the real shift happens earlier. It happens when her mind circles back to you without effort, when she wonders what you're doing without asking, when your absence feels louder than other men's presence. That's when the dynamic changes. And here's the part most men misunderstand. If she stays in your mind, you've already won, not because you have her, but because you have yourself. You didn't abandon your frame. You didn't overinvest emotionally before trust was earned. You allowed connection to grow naturally instead of forcing it to bloom faster than it should. This isn't about manipulation, it's about self-control, emotional discipline, understanding that attraction isn't built by convincing someone, it's built by allowing them to discover how they feel around you. And discovery always leaves a deeper imprint than persuasion. So if her presence lingers in your thoughts right now, don't panic, don't chase closure, don't rush resolution, pay attention instead. Because the same psychology that keeps her in your mind is the psychology that decides whether you become unforgettable or just another lesson she barely remembers. Most men get this wrong. They see a woman lingering in their thoughts and panic. They overanalyze every message, every pause, every word. They try to force clarity, force connection, force her attention. But what they don't realize is that the moment you start forcing her mind, the moment you start proving your worth, you stop being memorable. You become predictable, ordinary, forgettable. And in the world of female psychology, forgettable is fatal. Here's a secret few will tell you. When a woman can't get you out of her mind, it's because something about your presence disrupted her emotional equilibrium. Not in a chaotic, toxic way, but in a way that awakened curiosity, tension, and emotional engagement. Think about the men who fail. They make everything easy, too easy. No challenge, no mystery, no subtle friction. And without friction, the mind doesn't linger. It moves on. But when you are that rare combination of intriguing and grounded, she remembers. She replays moments she didn't fully understand. Questions choices she thought were settled. and without even realizing, either emotional energy is drawn back to you again and again. And this is where men make a fatal mistake. They think winning means capturing. They think winning is possession. They send endless texts, reply immediately, offer explanations, and try to fill the gaps that should remain open. But women don't fall for availability. They fall for presence when you have a life, when you hold value, when you're emotionally self-sufficient. That's what keeps you in her thoughts, not your desperation, not your logic, not your explanations. It's your ability to exist as a man who isn't consumed by her approval, yet still matters to her emotionally. Notice how some women stay in your mind long after encounters that seemed insignificant. It's not accidental. Those moments where you were calm under tension, humorous without being needy, confident without being arrogant, are recorded in her subconscious. She remembers not the words you said, but the energy you carried. That energy sticks, and the stickiness isn't built by chasing it, it's built by your ability to embody emotional control while leaving enough room for her imagination to run wild. Now, let's talk about timing. Men think if a woman hasn't called, texted, or shown overt interest immediately, she isn't invested. That's a critical error. Female psychology works on cycles of emotional curiosity, reflection, and subconscious testing. The woman who stays in your mind may be doing nothing intentionally to pull you closer. She may be evaluating, questioning, or comparing all unconsciously. And if you react impulsively, you destroy that cycle. If you stay grounded, you enhance it. The longer she thinks, the more she processes, the more powerful your imprint becomes. And here's the kicker most men never understand. Emotional impact beats physical presence every single time. You can spend hours together, yet if your interactions are predictable, safe, or uninspired, she'll leave your mind immediately. But a single, emotionally charged conversation, a subtle display of confidence, a moment where you didn't bend for her validation that stays. It echoes, it lingers, and that lingering is your advantage. So next time you find her in your thoughts, stop obsessing over control. Stop worrying about timing. Stop begging for certainty. Instead, examine how you made her feel without losing yourself. That emotional footprint is far more powerful than any attempt to manipulate, persuade, or convince. It's subtle, invisible, and entirely under your control because it starts with how you show up as a man before you even try to win her. If you master this, you don't chase her. She chases herself back to the memory of you. And that's the real power. Most men completely underestimate the power of absence. They think being present, texting, calling, showing up constantly, that's what keeps a woman interested. But the truth is the opposite. The more you chase, the faster you fade from her mind. And the more you allow space, the stronger your presence becomes in her imagination. Because women don't just connect with men, they reflect on them, replay them, and emotionally test them. Absence is the silent amplifier of your impact. Think about it. When you're too available, she knows exactly where you stand, and her mind doesn't need to work. But when you are grounded, calm, and emotionally self-contained, you create a puzzle in her subconscious. She wonders what you're thinking, how you're feeling, and what you'll do next. That subtle uncertainty isn't fear. It's curiosity. And curiosity is the emotional magnet that keeps her lingering in your head long after interaction ends. Here's the part most men get wrong. Emotional impact isn't about grand gestures or words. It's about consistency in your frame paired with unpredictability in your energy. You can be warm, funny, and kind and still leave a lasting mark because you don't bend to her emotional fluctuations. You don't seek validation from her moods. You don't overreact to her tests. That is what plants her memory of you deep. And it's what keeps her revisiting your presence mentally. And understand this. Women evaluate men in layers. Physical attraction, social value, and confidence matter, yes. But the thing that keeps her thinking about you when she's alone? Emotional resonance. The way you made her feel safe yet challenged. Valued yet slightly off balance. Interested yet unattainable enough that she had to work to understand her own reactions. That emotional footprint is what makes a man unforgettable. Most men try to shortcut this. They try to control outcomes. They interpret silence as rejection. They forget that the brain doesn't measure time in hours or days, it measures energy, contrast, and emotional intensity. When she stays in your mind, it's because somewhere along the way, you created moments that broke patterns in her emotional system, moments that were subtle, fleeting, yet unforgettable. And no amount of texting, explanations, or reassurance can replicate that effect once it's lost. This is why the man who masters emotional discipline wins silently. He doesn't demand attention. He doesn't chase certainty. He invests in himself. He grows his life outside her. He improves his presence, his frame, his value. And paradoxically, the more he does this, the more she returns to him mentally, without even realizing why. That's the invisible force of attraction, the one no one talks about. So if she's staying in your head, don't panic, don't overthink, don't act. Instead, focus on your own trajectory. Build a life she can't ignore mentally. Become a man whose absence isn't emptiness, it's presence in disguise. And remember, the mind lingers on things that feel rare, unpredictable, and emotionally significant. You are that if you stay disciplined, confident, and self-contained. At the end of the day, the woman who stays in your mind isn't a test of her loyalty. It's a test of your emotional mastery. Master it, and you've already won. Most men never realize that attraction isn't built in moments of intensity. It's built in the quiet, subtle patterns that create emotional tension over time. You see, women don't fall in love with grand declarations alone. They fall in love with the man who can exist in contrast to their expectations. The one who triggers reflection, curiosity, and desire without demanding it. If she stays in your mind, it's because you left impressions in those invisible moments. The ones most men think don't matter. Think about it. When was the last time you were with a woman and said nothing, did nothing overt, but somehow left her thinking about you for hours afterward? That's not coincidence. That's psychology. It's the unspoken energy you projected, the balance between interest and independence, warmth and restraint, presence and absence. That energy is what she remembers. That energy is what occupies her thoughts when you're not there. And most men will never understand it because they confuse quantity with quality, attention with value. Here's another truth most men ignore. When a woman lingers in your mind, she isn't evaluating you logically. She isn't measuring your words or comparing your actions rationally. She's processing her emotional response to your frame. She's replaying your confidence, your calmness, your subtle defiance of her expectations. She's testing herself without even realizing it. And every time you overreact, chase, or seek validation, you break that invisible tension. You reduce your impact. You fade. Now, let's talk about desire. Desire isn't earned by explanation or effort. Desire is earned by the way a man holds himself in space and time, how he behaves when nothing is being demanded of him. When a woman stays in your mind, it's because she experienced that tension firsthand, because she felt a pull that she couldn't explain. It's not about you trying harder. It's about you being strong enough to let the dynamic develop naturally, without interference. The quieter, steadier, and more confident you are, the more she is drawn to that magnetic force without even trying to understand it. And here's the paradox that almost no man sees. The less you chase, the more she thinks about you. The more grounded you remain, the more powerful your presence becomes in her subconscious. She will mentally return to moments where you were calm under pressure, where you didn't overreact, where you remained composed while others faltered. These are the invisible threads that tether her mind to you, stronger than any text, call, or grand gesture. Most men believe that attraction is a sprint. It's not. It's a slow, invisible process, measured in emotional resonance and tension. If she's in your mind right now, you've already planted seeds of connection that will grow whether you interfere or not. Your task is simple. Maintain your frame, enhance your presence, and continue building yourself in ways she can't ignore. Every action you take to grow, every boundary you uphold, every confident choice you make, it all compounds. It all increases her mental energy towards you. So understand this. If she lingers in your thoughts, it's not because of luck. It's because you've become rare, memorable, and emotionally significant. That is the kind of power most men never learn. And yet, you already hold it. You just need to nurture it, respect it, and never give it away for free. Most men never grasp the subtle art of emotional imprinting. They confuse actions with impact, attention with influence, and effort with connection. The truth is, the woman who stays in your mind is not impressed by what you say. She's affected by how you make her feel, often when you're doing nothing extraordinary at all. That lingering presence, it's the silent result of tension, contrast, and mystery, combined with your emotional control. And if you understand this, you control the game without ever speaking it aloud. Think about how easily some women drift in and out of your life. Certain ones are fleeting, leaving only traces of conversation, but others linger, replaying moments over and over. That difference isn't about her being special. It's about your energy. Did you convey a subtle power that piqued curiosity? Did you show warmth without dependency? Did you demonstrate confidence without arrogance? These small, almost invisible cues shape her memory far more than words ever could. And here's a psychological fact most men overlook. Memory of emotional contrast sticks longer than memory of behavior. When a woman feels calm with one man and slightly unsettled with another, it's not discomfort, it's mental imprinting. The slight tension you generated, intentionally or not, creates a mental loop in her mind. She returns to you emotionally, analyzing her own reactions, questioning what she felt, and wondering why other men don't evoke the same responses. That loop is the invisible mechanism of attraction, and it's how you remain relevant in her mind without chasing her attention. Most men ruin this without even realizing it. They react to uncertainty with impatience. They fill gaps with explanations, excuses, or overcommunication. They try to control outcomes instead of mastering themselves. That's when the lingering fades. That's when memory becomes ordinary. But the man who understands female psychology remains calm, detached, and present in his own life. He resists the urge to chase. He lets the emotional tension do the work. And the result? She stays, even when she shouldn't. Now let's talk about power. True relational power isn't coercion. It isn't manipulation. It's presence. It's emotional stability. It's knowing that your value isn't dictated by her attention. When a woman is stuck in your mind, it's because your energy and frame impressed her subconscious, not her conscious reasoning. And if you can maintain that power, it amplifies over time. Every interaction, every silence, every absence increases the gravitational pull you have over her thoughts. Here's the final piece most men miss. Staying in her mind is not about possession. It's about influence. It's about creating a psychological footprint she can't erase. And the remarkable part? You don't have to overthink it, overtext it, or overperform for it. It happens naturally when you cultivate yourself, control your energy, and leave space for her mind to work in your favor. So if she's in your head tonight, recognize it for what it is. Not obsession, not a mistake, not luck, but the result of invisible, powerful dynamics that most men never learn. You've already affected her in a way few men ever will. And that gives you control over the emotional field without ever needing to force it. The moment a woman stays in your mind, you've already crossed an invisible threshold. Most men spend their lives chasing outcomistrying to win her attention, her approval, or her affection. But the truth is, the real victory happens before any possession. It happens quietly, in the space where your presence lingers in her subconscious, shaping her emotions even when you're absent. That's where power lies, and most men will never understand it. Here's the reality. Women are wired to evaluate men emotionally before rationally. She may seem calm, distant, or distracted, but her mind will replay moments where you were grounded, confident, and subtly intriguing. She will question why she thinks about you, why she compares others to you, why your presence feels heavier than it should. And that's exactly why staying in her mind is a sign you're doing something right. It proves that you aren't just another man she interacts with. You've become an emotional benchmark. Most men react poorly to this. They panic. They overanalyze. They try to fix the situation by texting, explaining, or proving themselves. But here's what no one tells you. Trying to control her thoughts destroys the very imprint you've created. Emotional resonance can't be demanded. It can't be rushed. It grows silently, invisibly, and often unpredictably. Your influence is strongest when you step back, focus on your own life, and let her mind work in your favor. The men who fail to leave a lasting impression are predictable, needy, or reactive. They chase certainty instead of creating tension. They over-explain instead of allowing the mind to fill in the gaps. They invest before trust is earned. But the man who stays in her mind is steady, confident, and emotionally disciplined. He shows value without begging. He communicates without over-explaining. He leaves her thinking, wondering, and wanting more long after the encounter ends. And here's the psychological truth few admit. Presence isn't about proximity. It's about energy. The woman who can't get you out of her head remembers the way you carried yourself, the subtle confidence you projected, the restraint you demonstrated. She recalls the moments where you didn't react to uncertainty, where you didn't collapse under expectation, where your calmness contrasted perfectly with her emotional waves. That memory is magnetic, it's unforgettable, and it's why she keeps returning to thoughts of you, even if she's trying not to. So if you're asking yourself what to do next, here's the answer: nothing rash. Maintain your life, strengthen your frame, focus on your growth, and let the psychology you've unknowingly triggered work for you. Every moment of patience, every boundary you uphold, every choice to remain confident without overreaching compounds. She will continue to linger in your mind just as you linger in hers, because the dynamic has already been set and it's now invisible, powerful, and irreversible if handled correctly. Now here's something for you. Calculate this: if her mind returns to you 3 times a day, and your calm, grounded presence influences her behavior in 5 small ways each time, how many subtle impacts are you creating in a single week? Drop your answer in the comments. If this resonated, hit like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend who needs to hear this, because understanding this changes the way you see attraction forever.